Step into a time when TV trays ruled the living room, casseroles were king, and gelatin somehow found its way into every meal. The 1950s were a fascinating decade for American dinners. Some dishes became timeless classics, while others vanished into the recipe box of history. Today we are pulling back the curtain on the most iconic vintage dinners of the 1950s. Which of these do you remember? The 1950s were an era of post-war optimism, suburban growth, and the rise of convenience in the American kitchen. Families were settling into new homes, new routines, and new technologies like refrigerators, freezers, and electric ranges that transformed the way dinner was prepared. Casseroles, roasts, and one-dish meals dominated, offering both comfort and efficiency. Canned foods, Jell-O molds, and frozen vegetables promised modern convenience, while cookbooks encouraged housewives to impress their families with creative, sometimes unusual meals. Dinner in the 1950s was more than food, it was a cultural event. Families gathered around the table or sometimes around the brand-new television to share meals that defined the decade. Some recipes endured, while others disappeared completely. Let us take a nostalgic journey through the vintage dinners of the 1950s. 1. Meatloaf with ketchup. Glazed meatloaf was a dinner staple, stretching ground beef with breadcrumbs, onions, and eggs. In the 1950s, the signature finishing touch was a shiny ketchup glaze baked on top. It was hearty, simple, and inexpensive. Why it faded? Meatloaf still exists, but its 1950s ketchup top style feels dated in a world of gourmet versions. 2. Tuna noodle casserole, the ultimate comfort food. Tuna noodle casserole, combined canned tuna, cream of mushroom soup, and egg noodles, topped with crushed potato chips or breadcrumbs. Why it faded? Its heavy reliance on canned soup and fish made it less appealing, as fresh ingredients became more accessible. 3. Jell-O salad with meat or vegetables. Yes, it was dinner. Lime or lemon Jell-O encased shredded carrots, olives, even tuna. It was considered creative and glamorous for dinner parties. Why? It faded. Tastes shifted away from savory gelatin dish. Most people today find them unappetizing. Or Salisbury steak with gravy, a hearty dish of ground beef patties, seasoned with onion and served in rich brown gravy, often with mashed potatoes and peas. Why it faded? TV dinners and frozen meals claimed the Salisbury steak legacy, reducing its homemade charm. 5. Chicken a la king. Chunks of chicken, mushrooms, and peppers in a creamy sauce, served over toast, rice, or biscuits. It was elegant, easy, and perfect for entertaining. Why it faded? Its reliance on canned chicken and cream of something soups dated it over time. 6. Deviled ham casserole made from canned deviled ham, noodles, and cheese. This was a quick dinner option for busy households. Why it faded? The flavor was too salty and processed for modern palates. 7. Ham with pineapple rings. A showstopper for Sunday dinners and holidays. Glazed ham studded with cloves and decorated with pineapple rings and maraschino cherries. Why it faded? The presentation feels kitschy today, though the sweet-salty pairing remains beloved by some. Creamed chipped beef on toast, SOS, leftover from wartime rations. This dish was popular in the 1950s. Dried beef in creamy white sauce ladled over toast was filling and affordable. Why it faded? It became associated with military food and lost its household appeal. 9. Beef stroganoff. An Americanized version of the Russian dish, it featured strips of beef and mushrooms in sour cream sauce, served over noodles. Why it faded? The rich sour cream sauce fell out of fashion in lighter cooking eras. Spam casseroles. Spam was still popular after World War II. Families diced it into casseroles with potatoes, noodles, or rice. Why? It faded. Spam became seen as overly processed, though it still has a cult following. 11. Chicken pot pie, frozen and homemade. The 1950s saw both traditional homemade pot pies and the rise of frozen Swanson versions, which fit the TV dinner trend. Why it faded? Frozen versions dominated, but many forgot how to make them from scratch. 12. Stuffed bell peppers, green peppers filled with ground beef, rice, and tomato sauce were a colorful, nutritious dinner. Why it faded? The texture of cooked green peppers was divisive, and the dish became less common. 13. Baked Alaska dinner party dessert, although technically dessert. Baked Alaska was often the showstopper of 1950s dinner parties. Cake, ice cream, and meringue flambéed at the table. And why it faded, too elaborate for modern home cooks. 14. Beef and noodle skillet meals. One-pan meals combining ground beef, egg noodles, tomato sauce, and cheese were marketed as thrifty and efficient. Why it faded, boxed meal kits like Hamburger Helper took over in later decades. 15. Turkey tetrazzine, a creamy pasta dish with turkey, mushrooms, and parmesan. It was a favorite way to use leftovers. Why it faded. It felt dated compared to Italian-American pasta dishes that grew more popular. 16. Cabbage rolls, boiled cabbage leaves stuffed with ground beef, rice, and tomato sauce. Hearty, filling, and influenced by European immigrant traditions. Why it faded. Time-consuming preparation discouraged modern cooks. 17. TV dinners introduced in 1953 by Swanson. Frozen TV dinners revolutionized dinner culture. Compartmentalized trays offered turkey, peas, mashed potatoes, and dessert all eaten in front of the television. Why it faded, they still exist, but nostalgia turned into stigma as people viewed them as unhealthy. 18. Beef Wellington, aspiring homemakers' showpiece fillet of beef coated in PT and wrapped in pastry. Beef Wellington became the ultimate dinner party flex dish. Why it faded. It was too expensive and complicated for everyday meals. 19. Chicken divan, chicken baked with broccoli, cream sauce, and breadcrumbs, often topped with cheese. A classic casserole of the 1950s. Why it faded. Overly heavy sauces made it feel old-fashioned. 20. Sloppy Joe's ground beef in a tangy tomato-based sauce served on buns. Kids loved it, and it became a school lunch staple too. Why it faded. Still around, but often overshadowed by burgers and tacos. 21. Liver and onions, a common budget-friendly dinner in the 1950s. Liver provided iron and nutrition, often sautéed with onions. Why it faded. Strong flavor made it unpopular with later generations. 22. Crown roast of pork, a dinner party centerpiece where pork chops were arranged in a ring like a crown and filled with stuffing. Why it faded. Too elaborate and costly for most modern dinners. 23. Corned beef hash, diced corned beef with potatoes, onions, and sometimes topped with eggs. It was hearty and affordable. Why it faded. Canned hash versions cheapened the reputation. 24. Salmon patties made from canned salmon, eggs, and breadcrumbs. These patties were pan-fried and served with lemon or sauce. Why it faded. Fresh fish became more available, pushing canned salmon recipes aside. 25. Swedish meatballs. Ground meatballs and creamy sauce served over noodles or rice popularized through community cookbooks. Dade. Still survives, but IKEA revived its popularity more than home cooks. 26. Tamale pie, a casserole with ground beef, beans, corn, and cornbread topping, Tex-Mex by way of the 1950s kitchen. Why it faded. Authentic Mexican cuisine later eclipsed it. Macaroni and cheese casseroles. Not just stovetop 1950s versions. Baked macaroni with cheese sauce and breadcrumbs. Why it faded. Boxed mac and cheese became the norm. 28. Shrimp Newburg, a creamy, sherry-based seafood dish, often served over toast points, reserved for special occasions. Why it faded. Expensive ingredients and heavy sauces fell out of style. 29. Hot dish Midwestern classic casserole of ground beef, canned soup, and tater tots, or Pasto Midwestern comfort food at its peak. Why it faded. Still strong regionally, but less known nationwide. 30. Baked beans with franks, an affordable kid-friendly dinner of canned baked beans and sliced hot dogs baked together. Why it faded. Relegated to campfire food and lost its spot on family dinner tables. 31. Shrimp cocktail dinners served as both appetizer and light supper. Shrimp cocktail with tangy sauce was the epitome of chic. Why it faded, became cliché, and lost its novelty. 32. Rice pudding suppers. Rice pudding was hearty enough to serve as dinner on lean nights, with milk, cinnamon, and raisins. Why it faded. Sweet dinners became unusual as tastes changed. 33. Baked spaghetti pie, leftover spaghetti baked in a pie pan with cheese and eggs until firm. Why it faded? It was quirky, and Italian-American pasta dishes became more authentic. Closing reflection, the dinners of the 1950s reflected an America in transition, optimistic, practical, and sometimes experimental. Convenience, creativity, and tradition all collided at the dinner table. Families ate together, shared casseroles, and embraced both simplicity and showmanship. Some of these dishes survive in modern forms: meatloaf, pot pie, sloppy joes, while others live only in memory or vintage cookbooks. But they all remind us of a time when dinner was central to family life. Which of these 1950s dinners would you try or bring back? Do you remember your family making tuna casserole, ham with pineapple, or maybe a fancy beef Wellington? Share your memories in the comments. I love hearing your food stories. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another nostalgic journey through food history, because the best way to honor the past is to taste it again.